The best thing that happened to me professionally was when I was 22 years old. I was sitting in my office, pretending to work, minding my own business. My boss shows up with a thick proposal in his hands. He says, "Bharat, we have a new project to appraise the Brooklyn Bridge." I said, "Great, congratulations. Who's doing it?" "You are." "Oh." And then he says, "I want you to train the 2 new guys we recently hired." I said, "You know, I have never appraised a bridge in my life. And you want me to start with the Brooklyn Bridge and train you new guys?" He says, "Figure it out." He plunks the proposal on my desk and walks away. That was my introduction to the world of valuations. Since then, I have valued many other unique assets and over 4,000 companies. I have seen founders take their startups from 0 to Fortune 1000, and some from 0 to 0. Many of the startups that went from 0 to 0 on paper had everything going for them. Yet, they did not make it. Why? A lot of the founders were like some of you here today, graduating from college, wanting to put in that work to make that startup, willing to put in that grind, but they were missing one key element. And without it, nothing else mattered. It's not money, it's not connection, and it's definitely not education. I have seen founders lose years of their lives that they'll never get back trying to build a company without that one missing piece. I call that missing piece, that key element, the secret, etc., to a billion-dollar startup. Etc. E-T-C. E for the lure of the extraordinary. T for the importance of finding your tribe. And C for the unstoppable power of consistency. E-T-C. These 3 little letters will be the biggest difference in your startup going from 0 to Fortune 1000 or from 0 to 0. I started to learn the power of ETC while working on the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. But it really hit home after I moved to San Francisco and discovered this. This is a promissory note. It promises to pay the bearer a sum of $10 by the imperial government of Norton I, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. Now, I did not grow up in the US, but I'm pretty sure America never had an emperor. So I dug a little deeper. And what I uncovered was one of the most bizarre and unbelievable stories in American history. Our story begins in 1859 with a man named Joshua Abraham Norton. Joshua Norton was an incredibly successful businessman, rich, powerful, famous. And with one bad deal, he lost everything and fell into deep depression. And then on September 17th, 1859, Joshua rises from the ashes. He walks into the San Francisco Chronicle's office, the local newspaper, and issues this proclamation. I, Joshua Norton of San Francisco, California, hereby declare myself Emperor of these United States. The paper prints the story as a joke, an extraordinary claim by a harmless nut to try to sell more papers. But Emperor Norton doesn't see himself as a joke at all. He dresses the part. He conducts himself with imperial dignity. He walks the streets of San Francisco hearing grievances of his subjects and fights on their behalf at City Hall. He single-handedly defends a group of immigrants from an angry racist mob. He envisions a bridge over 5 miles long going over San Francisco Bay and uniting his people. 150 years later today, we call it the Oakland Bay Bridge. When Joshua Norton put himself out there, not everybody liked him. Some people thought he was crazy, the village idiot. But there were also some people whom he had genuinely helped and connected with, who otherwise would have been ignored or overlooked. Those people didn't just like him, they loved him. They didn't tolerate him, they celebrated him. They were his tribe. Day after day, Norton never skipped a beat. He had almost nothing to his name, but there he was, doing his duty, serving his people with absolute consistency. And as the years went on, more and more of the laughter and the snickering is replaced by admiration. Private boxes are reserved in his honor in theaters and opera houses. Restaurants now offer him free meals for the honor of his company. When a police officer arrests him and tries to send him to an asylum, all of San Francisco erupts and rallies in his defense. Not only is he released, but all police officers are now ordered to salute Emperor Norton wherever he goes. And the longer it went on, more and more of the rumor turned into admiration. And when he went as far as printing his own royal currency, it is accepted graciously wherever he chooses to spend it. And the longer it went on, more and more people started to wonder. And rumors started to circulate that he really was the secret brother of Napoleon III. That he really was a long-lost son of a great European empire. When Joshua Abraham Norton died in 1880, he had reigned as Emperor of the United States for 21 years. His funeral was attended by 10,000 people and stretched over a mile long, befitting an emperor. Every person in this room today has more education than Joshua Norton. Every person in this room today has more money in their wallets right now than Joshua had in his entire life savings. And yet, Joshua rose from absolute poverty to become an icon, cherished and celebrated 150 years later. How? Those 3 little letters, E-T-C. First, Joshua aimed for the extraordinary, the E. Declaring yourself Emperor of the United States, you have to admit, is as extraordinary as it can get. But the reality is, when you aim for the extraordinary, you immediately attract attention. I was in a VC pitch meeting in Silicon Valley. That day, there were 2 companies pitching us. It was the final round. It all came down to a 10-minute pitch and a 5-minute Q&A. The first company comes in. They had a great pitch. They had product, revenue, said all the right things. The second company comes in. 3 slides total, very few numbers. And the founder parks herself in the middle of the room and with superhuman confidence tells us how her company is going to absolutely change the world. I mean, she had no doubt in her mind. Just witnessing her extraordinary conviction, we almost had no choice but to invest. Most people go through lives being sensible, practical, realistic. But deep down, we never forget the dreams we had as children. Life forces us to bury them. But there's always that longing for not holding back, the what if, for doing all the things we've always wanted to do if we just weren't so sensible. So when we find a character that is larger than life, a goal so ambitious it sounds unbelievable, a vision that challenges the status quo, it takes us back to that inner child within each one of us, and we're attracted to it like bees to honey. Oh, by the way, that woman who gave that second pitch, today she's worth over $200 million. Extraordinary aspirations inspire extraordinary attention. As a 22-year-old kid, first job out of college, appraising the Brooklyn Bridge as my first bridge and training the new staff, to me, was just as crazy as declaring myself emperor. I mean, no experience, no plan, no clue on how to proceed. And let's not forget, I'm talking 2002. Now imagine a brown guy asking for blueprints and access to restricted areas of New York's iconic landmarks a year within 9/11. But once I accepted that this is what I had to do, no matter how extraordinary it may seem, my thoughts and actions started to find a way to live up to those expectations. I put on that imperial uniform, like Emperor Norton, and 3 months later, that 22-year-old kid had completed the valuation of the Brooklyn Bridge, trained his staff, and launched his career. When you aim for the extraordinary, there will always be people who will dismiss you, doubt you, even laugh at you. But there will also be people who are inspired by you. They are the ones that matter. Those people are your tribe. That's the T. The immigrants that Norton defended didn't think he was a joke. Nor did the poor he had helped, who only wished their politicians cared for them half as much as Norton did. Nor did the 10,000 people who attended his funeral. There were other people in my company with better qualifications and more experience than I. But I was given the opportunity of a lifetime when I was asked to appraise the Brooklyn Bridge, which led me to other opportunities like appraising the Atlanta airport, Uber, Airbnb, all just because one person believed in me. My boss saw something in me that I did not see in myself, and that is the power of finding your tribe. The community you surround yourself with is like the vision you need, is like the soil you need your vision to blossom. That could be the customers you have, or the city you live in, or the mentors you bring into your life. In a world full of people who will convince you to conform with the herd, finding your tribe can literally be the difference between life and death of your dreams. And lastly, Norton had the C, consistency. Or should I say insane consistency. If Norton would have dropped the act every few weeks and picked it up again whenever he felt like it, the spell would have been broken. The tribe you attract believes in you and your extraordinary vision because they see you consistently putting in the work to make that vision into a reality. If you go to the Brooklyn Bridge today, you will see a plaque that proudly says, "Maintained by the MTA." Now imagine if they replaced that sign with something that said, "Occasionally maintained by the MTA." Or if you're about to take a SpaceX flight into orbit and Elon pulls you aside and reassures you, "Don't worry, most days people come back home safely." When I am called in to value a company, that number just doesn't come from the money they have in the bank or the assets they own. That number also comes from me asking, what do I expect from this company in the future? And since none of us can actually see in the future, the best proxy for the future I have is their history of consistency. What they have done with consistency in the past is the best gauge for what they will continue achieving with consistency in the future. I have worked with founders in Silicon Valley whose ideas can get so crazy, they'd be locked up in an insane asylum anywhere else in the world. But when I see a founder who is consistently making improvements to her bottom line, who is consistently out there crusading for her industry, her product, who is consistently conducting herself with integrity and responsibility, I know I'm witnessing a billionaire in the making. Now, all this sounds good, but I'm a practical guy. So how do you take all these principles of ETC and actually apply them? So this is what you do. As you walk out of this room today, I want you to ask yourself, what's the one extraordinary thing for you to achieve for your career, for your business, for your life, if you were crazy enough to think that you couldn't fail? And then I want you to share that dream with at least one person who will egg you on and have your back. Someone other than mom. And then I want you to ask yourself, what's the one thing you could start doing today that's going to bring you just that 1 inch closer to make that vision into a reality? However small, doesn't matter, but something you can do immediately and consistently. And then do it. And then do it again tomorrow. And then do it again the day after. And who knows, maybe when I am called in to evaluate your company, I'll conclude that investing in your business empire is such an insane opportunity that it might as well be a license to print money.